Hello everyone, this is Editing Storm here. Before I begin, I just want to give a full disclaimer, a voiceover disclaimer that this story is going to be very disturbing, and there's actually only one picture of this little boy that's ever been located, taken of him, unfortunately. He was so neglected and uncared for that they don't even have pictures of him, just one photo. So with that being said, viewer discretion is definitely advised for this one. And if you are very squeamish or you don't like hearing details about, a child being, not in a safe place, then please turn away now. And I implore you that the details are very sickening. And it really honestly pissed me off the entire time I was doing it. So viewer discretion is definitely advised, and if there's any lack of editing, I deeply humbly apologize. There's not much pictures to go off of this, so please enjoy this video if you decide to go ahead. And I don't even think you're gonna enjoy it, honestly, but thank you for watching. Terrell Peterson was born on March 1st, 1992 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was one of more than 800 children who passed away between the years of 1995 and 1998 after he was brought to the attention of the Georgia Department of Human Services and the Division of Family and Children's Services. Some of those children died due to accidents and illness, but not Terrell. Terrell was born with cocaine in his blood by a mother who was addicted to crack cocaine. He was neglected by his biological mother, who used welfare for herself, including to get crack, locking him in his bedroom without food or water, and leaving Terrell and his two siblings, Tommy, who was 6, and Tasha, who was 11, with their severely ill grandmother, who could not physically take care of them. 7 reports were made by concerned neighbors who would be getting knocks at their doors by Terrell and his siblings searching for food. Those reports were handled by 11 different caseworkers and overseen by at least 10 supervisors at the Georgia Department of Children and Family Services. After those complaints and a span of 3 years, they convinced his mother to give him and his siblings up. He was sent with his siblings to their grandmother named Pharina Peterson and her daughter Terri Lynn Peterson, who lived with her alongside her boyfriend Calvin Pittman. The issue with this was, even though Pharina and Terri were related to Terrell's siblings, they were only his half-siblings, which meant that Pharina and Terri were not blood related to baby Terrell. And according to the DCFS protocol, when a child is taken, they were to be taken to a blood relative. Monthly visits and a caseworker were supposed to be assigned to Terrell while he was in their supervision, and no corporal punishment, including hitting, spanking, screaming, or any abusive behavior was allowed. This did not happen for baby Terrell. He was left unsupervised under Pharina's home without an assigned caseworker, and no one made a monthly visit. Within 6 months of his stay with Pharina, the abuse and torture started. On December 3rd, 1996, an 8th complaint came into the Fulton DCFS, but this time it was not for neglect, it was for physical abuse. This complaint was issued a few days before, on Thanksgiving. Terrell's biological mother had him to celebrate the holidays. She noticed bruises and cuts all over his body, and he was sent to Hughes Spalding Hospital. The hospital made the complaint after Terrell's mother told him what she found. When he arrived at the hospital, Atlanta police investigator A.C. Booker was dispatched to the emergency room, where a doctor told her that the child was a victim of long-term physical abuse. He was diagnosed shortly after with a condition known as battered child syndrome, a condition given to consistently abused children. Booker wrote during her investigation these words: "As I look at little Terrell's body, Most of his injuries were old. However, he had marks, scars, and lacerations about his body. His injuries included right forearm and ear badly scarred, mark patterns, buttocks swollen, tender and red, lower back mark, and left forearm. When Booker questioned the child, he explained that Pharina was the one who did this to him, due to him, in his own words, urinating in his own clothes. He said he was hit with belts and a white shoe, and held up 2 fingers to show what he meant. That very night, Pharina Peterson was arrested with a misdemeanor of reckless misconduct. The next week, she appeared in Atlanta Municipal Court to face the charge. Police photographed all of Terrell's injuries, and he was sent to his biological mother with instructions on not to return him to his grandmother. However, this did not go in Terrell's favor. No caseworker came with Terrell or on his behalf to the courtroom to be able to testify against Pharina, although Sherelle Elmore was assigned to appear with him present. For that reason, Judge Catherine Malachy dismissed the charge and stated the reason being is that the victim did not appear in court. Unfortunately, the judge does not remember ever handling this case, so she says, and the court transcripts were thrown away. However, the person assigned to prosecute Peterson, Darrell Kimbrough, said that no one else was involved on the case or on behalf of Terrell. He stated that the DFACS should have had him in court or someone should have been there. Absolutely little to no communication between the court and the DCFS. During later investigations by the state of Georgia, Sherelle Elmore created a false report and placed it into Terrell's case file, explaining that the judge did not believe Pharina was guilty of any abuse, when she never appeared to make that judgment, and the judge certainly did not make that ruling. The victim was not present. That does not mean Pharina was not guilty. This put Terrell in extreme danger. Just 1 day later, he was back with his grandmother, and the Child Welfare Agency closed his case once the charges were dropped. A fatal mistake was made that day. Pharina told the welfare caseworker that she did not abuse Terrell, and that he was constantly falling and getting into fights with other children in his Head Start class. Less than 3 weeks later, Terrell was back in the same hospital, Hughes Spalding. Pharina told the doctor it was due to him standing on a heating grate a week prior, and that she did not bring him to the hospital because she was attempting to treat the wounds herself. A doctor by the name of Randall Alexander, who was the Center of Child Abuse Director at the Morehouse School of Medicine, stated the following: "I have a problem with that story. If it's going to be hot, you're going to jump off as fast as you can. A 4-year-old is going to get off." It was clear that Pharina was lying, due to Terrell telling the hospital and the police of Pharina's abuse, and trying to save his own life from her hands. She decided to retaliate, and both her and Terri purposely made Terrell stand on the heating grate to punish him. His burns were so bad that he needed to have skin grafts, which is a medical procedure where they take healthy skin from a part of your body and they place it where the injury is located. Terrell was admitted into the hospital and days later had skin taken from one of his hips and placed on his feet. No police were called, no report was made, and no one followed up with Pharina's story, including questioning the siblings if they witnessed any abuse, questioning the Head Start teacher to see if he was constantly getting into fights, and especially never questioned Terrell. Pharina was believed, and he was sent right back into her possession. For 1 full year after this, Terrell was severely abused with belts, telephone cords, shoes. He was starved, tied to a banister with pantyhose, and forced to sleep on a slab of wood. On the evening of January 15th, 1998, Terrell, yet again, was sent to the same hospital, but this time in cardiac arrest when his Aunt Terri explained that he was feeling tired after she attempted to feed him at around 9 p.m. After numerous efforts to help and revive Terrell, he was pronounced dead 45 minutes after he arrived at 10:55 p.m. Terri could not explain the numerous scars, bruises, and lacerations all over his little body. Immediately after his death, an autopsy was done and showed Terrell had died from severe abuse over a long period of time, and at a point of near starvation. He was shrunken down to 29 pounds when a 5-year-old child is supposed to weigh between 39 and 40 pounds. Reports to the Child Welfare Agency began shortly after his death that he was force-fed with lacerations on his lips and was dunked headfirst into a toilet. Tasha, his half-sister, said that he was tied up a lot. Pharina Peterson, Terri Lynn Peterson, and her boyfriend Calvin Pittman were charged with the murder of Terrell, and each were given the sentence of life in prison. There was a note found by police that Pharina allegedly wrote, stating the following: breakfast, he gets a bowl of oatmeal. Lunch, he gets grits. Dinner, he gets grits. His hands are always tied. However, the story does not stop here. Numerous chances the state of Georgia were given to save him from the environment that he was in. Georgia DFCS did 2 internal investigations into Terrell's case and reported that Fulton County failed to make contact with Peterson, failed to conduct the monthly visits needed, an extreme lapse in judgment. They concluded there were numerous violations throughout his entire 5-year history. Ralph Mitchell, the administrator of the Atlanta area office, claimed that he was outraged at the loss of Precious' life. He further continued to claim that the department followed all protocols needed. Now let's take it back here. Protocol of the Fulton and Georgia DFCS and DCFS has always stated monthly visits, no abusive contact by the foster parent, and a person was supposed to be assigned to supervise the child. None of that was done for Terrell. Mitchell wrote a private memo shortly after, claiming the findings were untrue, and commented how fortunate he felt that no one in the media had called to follow up after his public statement. Due to the state of Georgia privacy laws, Terrell's case was sealed and was not permitted to be accessed by the media. For 1 full year after his death, no one knew exactly what happened. A lawyer by the name of Don Keenan was determined to sue the state of Georgia and everyone responsible with the supervision of Terrell. He received a shocking surprise when he got a file, specifically Terrell's entire case file, given anonymously by a person who worked within the department. Whoever had done this must have carried a significant amount of weight, possible regret, and could not handle the guilt of what happened to Terrell. The complicity of his murder was through willful neglect of the Georgia DCFS, and now with Terrell's file exposed, another caseworker was determined to make sure that Terrell's half-siblings, Tasha and Tommy, were to be safe from another family member by the name of Pharina Peterson, who allegedly also harmed the children. The unidentified caseworker stated this: Miss Peterson will cooperate with the agency and continue to show interest in the support of the child while they're at home. I think again, you'd have to look at the individual situation, and if she had not harmed those children, then it might have been acceptable. It took a murder of their half-siblings for someone to care enough to make sure the rest of the Peterson family were not abusive like Pharina and Terri with the help of her boyfriend Calvin. After the program aired and sparked attention, the governor at the time, Roy Barnes, decided to set up a child advocate office that would have full authority to bypass the state's confidentiality laws and investigate child abuse independently. Terrell's half-siblings were placed with another foster family, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation conducted several raids on the offices of the DFCS and the DAFCS. The Terrell Peterson Act was passed later, which gave doctors the full authority to take temporary custody of battered and abused children at the hospital without needing the department's approval. At the end of a dirt road in Randolph County, near 170 miles south of Atlanta, Terrell Peterson's little body is located in a small cemetery. There are 2 old potted plants that were toppled over near an oak tree that hangs over a small patch of red clay. Those are remnant of tributes paid to those buried in the Mitchell Grove Baptist Church Cemetery in Cuthbert. Susie Crowell, who is a member of the church, said Terrell had no mourners and no visitors to his grave, stating they just dug a hole and buried him. His tombstone was paid for by his attorneys. Terrell's case is a very devastating failure in both his family and the people who were supposed to help him to live a better life and abuse-free. May Terrell Peterson rest in heavenly peace.